What's up, everybody? I'm Yogi Chris, captain of IMC Nation and co-founder of IMC Base One, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga. This is another video blog talking about the lineage and the history of IMC Nation. To do that, you need to know what is IMC Nation, who is AZD, and when it comes to men's movements around the planet, and IMC is more than a men's movement, but that's what this channel is dedicated. I'm captain of the men's division, the men's side of things. And to know a little bit about the history of Arash and what's so special about what's happening right now. When I first met Arash 7 years ago, his website was a little disjointed. The products weren't like super obvious, like where to get them, but I still picked up some products and I could just tell the truth. I could hear it, I could understand. And I came and met him in a one-on-one. And at the time, he was making most of his income through the women's fitness center. So he had foremost women's fitness center in the United States and in the world. His girlfriends and women that were involved with him in whatever capacity, not necessarily intimate, were trainers at this women's fitness center. And it was pulling in a lot of money. I mean, a safe space for women to go and train with trainers that look beautiful, that know how to train, and away from the gawking eyes of men. They had a security officer there. They had like 4 guard pit bulls. I mean, it was a whole thing. And then he was sitting back, just running relationships, doing one-on-ones with guys that were interested. His products were bringing in some money, and he was studying a lot of alchemy and esoteric principles and things. He'd already achieved his black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he was like retired from that. And that's what the state I found him in. And his teachings were really focused around self-ownership, the kind of Prometheus teachings. He's packaged it as a package called Prometheus. Capitalism, Objectivism, from Ayn Rand, and just self-ownership and, getting the word out and, promoting your business. Quickly after I met him, the teachings shifted. That's where he first came into Zepar, which was a demon entity that, was brought to him by a sorcerer and was like, this demon wants to work with you and whatever. And a lot of people get turned off by that. And they're like, oh, demon is satanic, a devil, and anti-Christian and all this stuff. Arash doesn't even believe in demons. This is what the sorcerer came to him and said this, and he went through the rituals with that sorcerer. Shout out to Frank White, who's that sorcerer, and changes happened. His wisdom increased, his knowledge on this code of relationships between men and women enhanced, and this is 6 years ago that this is happening. So he went through a period where he was then teaching like Zepar stuff, and kind of the theme of this video blog is demonstrating this circling action or the spiraling action of AZD kind of spirals through similar teachings, but with new understanding as he, circles back around. It's not really a circle because a year or two goes by, and when you circle back to a topic, you have more wisdom and more understanding from all the other topics you've been going through and researching and practicing. And so it's never the same topic again, but it's just a similar theme. So when I met him, he was going through objectivism, capitalism, that stuff. And then he shifted into Zepar, which was seduction and mind control. A lot of influence, a lot of, deep genetic influence of women and men. And it stayed on that theme for about a year or so until he came to what was known as Diamond Mind. Now, a lot of people who know of Arash, and if you don't know of Arash, Arash, I'm 3.5 minutes into the video, he's the foremost expert on relationships for men on the planet. And he's not like some super rich playboy that has like millions and millions of dollars and, some kind of, or he's hoeing women or, has like a Playboy magazine or something where he's just like using the women that he picks up to like display their body, and like, that's basically like hoeing women too. That's not what he did. It's just the women are very safe and kind of hidden from other men, and they train other women, and they're open to the public. Like, people can find them. They're not like, strapped away in some dungeon somewhere. Like, it's voluntary relationships, but the code of how he engages with women and how he treats women, how he thinks women should act, it was really getting more crystallized during this period of Zepar and went through a lot of changes. Then when he started Diamond Mind, which is a program that a lot of people know Arash for, it was communication skills. He was almost exclusively teaching mindset and communication skills for like a year and a half. That's what it was. And when he would do events and his contributions to those events, it was communication skills and mindset stuff. He wasn't doing pickup. He was talking on seduction, of course, because he had lots of relationships, and so he would talk on that. And that's why the skills of communication that he had and the mindset and the imagination techniques that he used were so cutting edge, because they were really practical, meaning they worked in real life. That when you shift your mindset, you shift your communication. When you change your communication, you change the effects that you create. And if you can do that consistently across a lot of communication lines with a lot of people over time, you'll change your life. And he was just demonstrating and teaching that with the Diamond Mind program. Later, I have a little notes because I got to remember these things. I think another shift happened when the Red Lotus event came out. And the Red Lotus event was in the summer of 2017, so that's about a year of Diamond Mind into that. And he started teaching this idea of wearing your imagination and really shapeshifting. It was really the technology of shapeshifting. So we went from capitalism, objectivism, then through seduction, the art of seduction and hypnosis and mind control, then into this idea of shapeshifting, which he'd already been doing when he learned from his acting coach, Manu Tupo, and all his life, as a martial artist, shapeshift into an animal or whatever. But he was teaching us the techniques, the language, and the language is key. When you hear the description of how to do it, especially when it comes to how to do something with your mind, the language is the code of the mind. So when you hear someone explain a mental technique, that's how the teaching comes across. You don't even have to be in person for that. It's explained to you. And that started this whole era of the Red Lotus teachings. Then came the No FUXX Given podcast. And almost simultaneously with that was the Love Spell program that he was doing with one of his girlfriends, who's no longer a girlfriend, but she was a great long-term relationship. A lot of teachings came out of that period, and he was with her for like 4 or 5 years or something. She was with him, whatever. And the No FUXX Given podcast was this free offering that he was answering guys' questions. 40, 50 guys would show up to this podcast live, and it was posted. I made a whole book of notes about it. It was 1,000 teachings. I took notes on this thing, and it was so good. And it was free. Then he started the Love Spell program with his girlfriend at the time. And so that was the art of relationships. And I think that's what that period was. The No FUXX Given and the Love Spell period was the teaching just relationships, not seduction necessarily. It's all of the elements are there. Shape-shifting, mindset, seduction, owning yourself and capitalism, promoting yourself, promoting your relationship. Like all of his philosophies are there, and that's why it's integrated mental concepts, IMC. But the art of relationships and how to relate to women in a way that makes a long-term meaningful relationship was that period of No FUXX Given, which included a lot of spirituality and how to not give a fuck. And that's related to relationships. You can't give a fuck about other people's opinions if you really want a strong relationship. It's you and her. And even if you have multiple relationships, it's you and her and you and her and you and her. And it's not other people outside of your relationship's opinion. And that was, he was going through so many teachings and examples and text threads and what we would call like a debriefing of how an interaction went down so that all the people could learn. Then the next thing that happened within about 6 months of that was a program called Mentorship. And in Mentorship, we didn't know at the time, but then later we found out. And it was a very consistent program like what he was talking about. I just didn't know what the subject was. I knew what he was teaching on. It was so profound, but later he told us the reference, and it was the surrender experiment. He was then teaching the Untethered Soul surrender experiment of Michael Singer. So he went through Objectivism, then he went through seduction and mind control with Zepar. Then he went through shapeshifting. So you see this circle. And then he went through the art of relationships. And then he came to the surrender experiment, listening or not listening to the voice in your head and how it affects your system and what to do with the voice in your head. And it's amazing how many different teachings and how many angles you can come at that subject that are useful to the student or the listener, even to the teacher. As you talk it out, you're like, oh man, this makes a lot of sense. And there was a profound period of Surrender Experiment and Untethered Soul. Those are the 2 books by Michael Singer that he was going through during the mentorship period. This is acting concurrent or simultaneously with the Love Spell program. The No FUXX Given podcast ended. And so he's teaching the art of relationships and he's teaching the surrender experiment to the advanced students. That builds up a lot of anticipation in people because there needed to be a next level. And so he offered the Tabiat program. Then this came about a year and a half later, so in early 2019 or mid 2019. And the Tabiat was back to the core of the seductive instinct. That was his original business outside of the Women's Fitness Center, was seductive instinct. Also, I was saying that when I first met him, like the products were kind of disjointed. About a month or 2 after I met him, this guy came in. His name is Ibo from Germany. Or maybe it was a month or 2 before. It was right around that period. And he revamped his website and got the products listed really nicely, and sales were going up. And he was releasing a lot of products monthly, not like not events, not gatherings or camps like we do now, but products, digital products with lectures where he would be lecturing his girlfriends, and they were all so profound and they were very successful. And so shout out Ebo, and Ebo still works for him and manages the website, and it's a great website, arashzepar.com. And so fast forwarding, after mentorship came around, then there was this period of Tabiat. Tabiat got released. It was this very expensive program where you would come and learn from him for 3 days, and he would reveal his life to you in a way that he hadn't revealed in all the years I had known him. He hadn't let you come to dinner. His girlfriends would be there, or the girlfriends would be there while he's lecturing, or he would be explaining some deeper things when you're just with him that were like really dangerous. Like dangerous concepts and dangerous relationships with dangerous men and how they were navigated. And you felt more dangerous knowing these things. And it really shifted your insides to become a more masculine man. This is the nature of Tabiat, which was, in my opinion, just the basic of seductive instinct and this core root of survival. So that's what he was teaching. He's actually circling back around to that now, but I'll get to that. So he did Tabiat for several months, maybe about half a year. Then came the Messengers program. Mentorship hadn't yet ended. He was still doing that. Love Spell was continuing. And the Messengers program then shifted to communication skills. It's very similar to Diamond Mind. So you see how he circled back around to Diamond Mind. And but it was upgraded. It was the Messengers tech and synthesized, and he gave a lot of background philosophy, a lot of the key codes to language that he knew that were very, very profound and have changed me forever. And they've changed the few guys that did that program forever because it was a high-ticket program. So you see how that's spiraling around. Then comes the Love Spell boot camp. So the Messenger period ended after about 6 months, and the first boot camps started, which is what now we call the gatherings. But it was a monthly boot camp that started in like January, February of 2020. And that again circled back around to mind control and hypnosis. He got certified by hypnotherapists, the world's foremost hypnotherapist, Anthony Jaquin, mentored him and taught him and certified him real fast. Like he already had all the skills. Jaquin was like, you're already done. In 6 hours, you've completed my course. It's like a 70-hour course. And so shout out to Anthony Jaquin. So for several months, he's teaching that deeper language, hypnotic speech, and the mindset that comes with that. Then comes the period of the beast, which is shapeshifting. So he circles back to shapeshifting, which was like Red Lotus. But when he goes into the beast, he integrates some of the Messenger's tech and philosophy with stoicism. And stoicism was part of Messenger's tech. So he integrated stoicism with the shapeshifting tech, this technology of how to use your imagination and your mind to influence your state of being, your state of emotions, your communication, and just your life, influence your destiny. And for several months, probably 8 to 10 months, he was teaching the beast philosophy. This is stoicism and the shape-shifting into animal totems and so on. Meanwhile, he's teaching seduction, relationships, communication skills, all the things that he was doing, owning yourself. But it was all in the context of the shape-shifting beast. Fast forward, let me see, just make sure I'm not missing too much, because I want to kind of give you the idea. Now, some of you don't know who Arash is. You may be seeing this video blog, and I'm just a representative of him. I live with him, and I manage all of his affairs with the men's side of things. I'm the captain of IMC Nation, the highest rank behind the founder. After the shapeshifting era, there were several things that he kind of circled through month to month. Now things were getting faster, changing faster. He was changing to some of the leadership skills, which was objectivism again. After the shapeshifting period, he went into the leadership skills, which was objectivism and capitalism. Then he went into the Alpha Code, which was kind of a new offering, but it goes back to the basic of seductive instinct. It was very similar to Tabiat. So he's just circling through these topics. He did that for several months. Back to shapeshifting. Then he went into the PIMP era, where he was collaborating with an ex-PIMP known as Kevin Gentry, Boss Hog Macaroni. For 5 months, he's doing that collaboration. That was like a theme of things that he was doing, even outside of that class, because we were going to strip clubs and he was dating 2 strippers or something like that, 3 strippers or something, among his other relationships. And so there was something very deep in the male-female code he was teaching there, the sexual psychology, what's called evolutionary psychology in the textbooks. And that was a phase that we went through. If you weren't here for the PIMP era, you missed out. I don't think it'll ever happen again. Not with Kevin. I don't know. Maybe it will, but wow, what an era. To hear that language and how men and women are talked about, and the idea of business and the ownership and I'm not saying be a pimp. Not at all. I'm not a pimp, even though some of my friends call me pimp and yogi, but that's just, it has to do with the language that we use. And after the pimp era came the Transcendental Meditation era. Now, Arash was always doing Transcendental Meditation as long as I've known him. And he got a lot of us on it. Like 40 or 50 guys are on Transcendental Meditation. Dozens of women are on Transcendental Meditation. He's done a lot for that movement, bringing some very strong individuals to TM, where the TM community is mostly a bunch of softies, a bunch of soft meditators. But here comes IMC Nation practicing TM. He went deep into it, went deep into the advanced training program where he was gone for weekends training this thing. He got real deep into cosmic consciousness and some of these deep spiritual teachings. And that was like a whole era. He was teaching the Tao Te Ching, and he went back to Surrender Experiment and Eckhart Tolle, the pain body and everything, and then TM with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And he really went deep into this for about 4 or 5 months. And this brings us to really practically the current time, where there's some nuances in it. There's some things that have been introduced that were different from before. But after the TM era is now current era, modern, the event that's happening this month or next month, August. Animal magnetism. This is going back to Tabiat. It's including the shapeshifting, but shapeshifting, Tabiat, the seductive instinct, the core of the method, the basic understanding of dangerousness and how important that is in your relationships and as a man to protect your environment, your space. And so the woman is submissive towards you. So you have a proper dynamic between man and woman. That's this month. Animal magnetism, spiraling back around with all of the understandings and growth that have come through the years and the events. I mean, this is event like number 40 or something, or 50 or something that I've managed for him. That's a lot of events. Training 50 guys a month, sometimes 70 guys, sometimes 40 guys. In person, it's like 15 or 20 guys in our house. That's a lot of men who consistently show up. It's not cheap. Like, they must be getting tremendous value. Their lives are improving. Like, my life has improved. If you see me from 7 years ago, I was showing people a picture of my passport. Dear God, I was such a different person. Like, the evolution here is real. You know, the process is organic and it changes. If you know what he did a year ago, you don't know what we're doing now. If you studied him 5 years ago, you don't know what we're doing now. You're off the pulse and you're behind. And you may be ahead of some of the chumps and the normies around you, but you're comparing yourself to retards. You're like in the autistic class and you're like, I'm the smartest kid in this class. No, that's wrong. Like, we're on the varsity squad. We're competing with world champions. We're around ex-football players, basketball players, restaurant owners, semi-celebrities. I mean, people, we're not at Hollywood or whatever, but fuck Hollywood. We're making our own Hollywood. That's why I'm wearing the cookie shirt. We just came out with a music video with Burner. You know who Burner is? He owns cookies. It's like $1 billion cannabis industry. Or cannabis business, and AZD knows the guy. Did a video, a song collaboration where Burner wrote the whole song. It's very expensive, but he did it for Arash because of collaboration and friendship. So it wasn't $20,000 to write a bar. It was like, here's fucking some hundreds of dollars for the studio time or whatever. And we just made a music video. So IMC Nation, like the guys that are close, got to be in this music video, and you'll be, infamous. Burner's not going anywhere. He's only getting more famous. You became infamous by participating in the music video last month. Cookies brand. Shout out Burner and AZD. So Animal Magnetism is an event that's releasing tomorrow, Thursday, July 28th or something like that, whatever that is. And it'll have a discount period of like 72 hours, just, $100 off or something like that. You want to get in as soon as possible, right at the beginning. That the powerful lectures come at the very beginning and at the very end, and everything in between is going to be clarifying understandings, some new innovations in field where he goes over the text threads and the conversations, the phone calls and the interactions he's had with women, which is going to change how you relate with women, with your mom, with your dad, with your sister, with your brother, with your IMC brothers. And so I think that's about the gist of it. That's the evolution of IMC in a very short stint. I intend to write the book. I intend to get more detailed with it. I intend to go through my notes of those events so that I can remember more details. But this is a video blog. I intended this video blog to be 10 minutes. So it's 20 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you sign up for your sake and for the sake of everyone around you. From the bottom of my heart, everyone around you will benefit when you do an advanced training with Arash Dibazar. It will influence your communication and how to own your space, how to be charming, how to be imaginative and creative, how to be seductive, how to manage your own state, because he is being pushed and pulled and tugged in so many directions socially by that deepest of genetic tugs that we get, and that's in the relationship with the woman. She's going to pull your emotions in ways that the business and friends and family isn't going to pull you. And when you have multiple relationships, you got to be a master of that tug of war. And really, he's not even tugging, he's transparent. And he'll teach you his methods in the advanced camp. Go to imcbase1.com. The link is in the description. And I'll see you on the camp, Animal Magnetism. Os.